The moon hung low over the open plains, a dull silver coin floating in a sea of restless clouds. The wind moved through the grass like a ghost, whispering against the sides of Cole Turner's weather-beaten barn. He had been up late mending a broken fence, his lantern casting long trembling shadows over the ground. It was the kind of night that made a man's bones ache, cold, lonely, and full of secrets. Then he heard it, a sound that didn't belong to the night. At first, it was faint, a soft groan, almost swallowed by the wind. Cole froze mid-step, lantern raised high, his eyes narrowing as he tried to make out the direction. Another sound came, this time clearer, sharper, the voice of pain. Human, not a coyote, not a calf caught in the wire. Someone was out there. Cole's hand instinctively went to the revolver on his belt. He'd lived too long in the wild country to take chances. With slow steps, he moved toward the barn's open doors, the light flickering across the wooden posts and the cold glint of his tools. The groans grew louder now, a woman's voice, trembling, gasping. "Hello?" he called out, his voice echoing into the darkness. "Who's there?" No answer, only the sound of labored breathing. He took a few steps forward, boots crunching on the dirt. Then, as the light from his lantern stretched into the shadows behind the barn, he saw her, a woman, slumped against a stack of hay, her head tilted back, sweat glistening on her forehead despite the chill. Her dress was torn, one sleeve half ripped away, and her bare foot was twisted at an odd angle. When Cole's eyes fell to her ankle, he stopped cold. It was swollen grotesquely, the skin stretched tight and purple, pulsing slightly with every heartbeat. "It's swollen, a broken bar so big," she whispered, voice hoarse and weak. Cole crouched low, his lantern trembling slightly in his hand. The woman's eyes fluttered open, wild, sharp, filled with both fear and defiance. She looked like she'd been running for days. There were scratches along her arms, dirt smeared across her face, and her lips were cracked from thirst. "Don't touch me," she hissed suddenly, her hand darting to her side. Cole saw the flash of metal, a small knife, half broken but still deadly. He raised his free hand slowly. "Easy now. I ain't here to hurt you. You're hurt bad, miss. That ankle won't last the night if you don't let me help." She breathed hard, glaring up at him. For a long, tense moment, the two of them just stared, a weary rancher in the middle of nowhere, and a strange woman hiding behind a knife. The lantern flickered again, throwing long shadows across her face. Cole could see now that beneath the dirt and exhaustion, she was young, maybe mid-20s, but her eyes told of someone who'd seen too much. "Who are you?" he asked carefully. "Doesn't matter," she muttered, grimacing as another wave of pain hit her. "I'll be gone by dawn." "Not with that foot." "You won't," Cole said, setting the lantern down. "Let me take a look." "I said no," she barked, trying to pull back, but the motion sent a bolt of pain shooting up her leg. She bit her lip to stop a cry. Cole sighed. "Fine. You don't want me touching you, I get it, but at least let me tell you what's happening. That swelling, it's bad. You twisted out there." "Horse fell," she said between shallow breaths. "Near the ridge." Cole frowned. "That's miles out." "You crawled all the way here." She didn't answer, only glared at him, breathing hard. The silence stretched between them again. Cole looked down at her ankle, shaking his head. "All right," he murmured, pulling a clean bandana from his back pocket. "Just hold still, ma'am. I ain't gonna hurt you." Her grip on the knife tightened, but she didn't stop him this time. Cole knelt close, careful not to startle her, and tore the bandana in two. The air was cold enough to sting his fingers, but he worked quickly, wrapping the swollen joint as best he could. The skin was hot to the touch, an infection already setting in. "Maybe," he winced, muttering softly under his breath. The woman stared at him as he worked, her chest rising and falling fast. "Why are you helping me?" she asked suddenly, voice trembling. Cole looked up, the lantern light catching the sharp lines of his face. "Because out here, we don't leave folks to die, no matter who they are." She blinked at that, maybe in disbelief, maybe in shame. For a moment, her knife hand lowered, just slightly. "You're shivering," he said quietly. "Let's get you inside before the cold finishes the job." Her eyes darted toward the horizon. "Number, I can't go in there. I can't be seen." Cole frowned. "Ain't no one here but me and the horses. What are you running from?" But she didn't answer. Instead, she looked away, jaw tight, tears glinting in the corners of her eyes. Cole stood, brushing off his hands. Suit yourself. But if you stay out here, you'll freeze before the sun's up. He turned to leave, grabbing the lantern, but just as he took a few steps, he heard her voice say small and breaking, "Wait." He turned. She was trembling now, her defiance fading beneath exhaustion. "Yeah, broken bar, I can't move," she whispered. "Please see broken bar." Cole didn't hesitate this time. He crouched again and slid his arms beneath her, feeling how light she was, all bones and tension. She tensed at first, her knife clattering to the dirt, but then she went still, too weak to resist. He lifted her carefully, her head resting against his shoulder, her breath hot against his neck as he carried her toward the cabin. The wind picked up, howling like a living thing. The lantern's flame wavered dangerously, throwing fleeting light over the path. Cole could feel her trembling, not from cold alone, but from fear. Whoever she was, she hadn't just been running from an accident. Something or someone had driven her deep into his land. When they reached the porch, Cole paused. He glanced down at her face, illuminated faintly by the flickering light. Her lips moved, forming words too soft to hear. Then she went limp in his arms. They fainted from pain and exhaustion. Cole pushed the door open with his shoulder, stepping inside his small, warm cabin. The fire still glowed on the hearth, faint but alive. He laid her gently on the cot near the wall, covering her with his coat. For a long moment, he stood there, looking at her, wondering who she was, what trouble had found her, and what danger he might have just carried through his door. Outside, the wind screamed across the plains. Inside, the rancher stood frozen, realizing that his quiet life was about to change forever. The woman awoke to the crackle of fire and the smell of something warm, coffee and wood smoke. Her body ached, her ankle throbbed, and her mind swam between fevered dreams and fragments of memory. When her eyes opened, she saw the rancher sitting a few feet away, cleaning his rifle with quiet precision. For a few seconds, she didn't move. The flicker of the flames made his face look hard, the kind of man shaped by dust, work, and silence. But there was something else in his eyes, the calm watchfulness of someone who'd learned long ago to expect trouble. "You're awake," Cole said without looking up. Her hand instinctively reached for the knife, but it was gone. He noticed. "Don't bother, I took it. You'd have stabbed me before I got to finish the coffee." Her eyes narrowed. "You should have left me out there." Cole shrugged. "Maybe, but I don't like the thought of burying strangers who could have been saved." Silence fell between them again, broken only by the steady ticking of the clock on the wall and the soft hiss of the wind outside. The woman tried to sit up, groaning as pain shot through her leg. Cole stood immediately, moving toward her with a cup of water. "Careful," he said, setting it down beside her. "You sprained it bad. Could be a fracture." She eyed him warily. "You talk like a doctor." "Just a rancher who's seen his share of busted bones." He sat on the edge of the chair, leaning forward. "You mind telling me who you are?" She hesitated, staring at the flames. "No one." Cole raised an eyebrow. "No one limps through a mile of brush and barbed wire for no reason." "You run in from someone?" Her jaw tightened. "That's none of your concern." Cole leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "You're on my land, drinking my water, resting under my roof. Makes it my concern." Her eyes flicked up to him, fierce and unyielding. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." "Try me." She looked away, her fingers clutching the blanket that covered her legs. Her voice was quiet now, almost fragile. "They said I helped him, that I was part of his gang, but I wasn't. I just worked at the station. I didn't even know who he really was until it was too late." Cole frowned. "Who?" "Jeb Maddox." The name seemed to weigh heavily on her tongue. Cole froze. Everyone in that part of the territory knew that name, Jeb Maddox, the outlaw who robbed 3 banks, shot 2 sheriffs, and vanished into the desert like a ghost. There was a bounty on his head higher than the worth of most men's lives combined. "You're telling me you knew Maddox?" Cole said slowly. She nodded. "He came into the station 3 nights ago, wounded, pretending to be a traveler. I gave him water, patched him up. The next morning, the law came through, and by nightfall, they were killing me. His woman said I helped him escape." Cole studied her face. There was no deceit in her voice, only exhaustion, fear, and a quiet shame. "They were gonna hang me," she continued, her voice trembling. "I barely got out. My horse fell near the ridge of a broken bar and I crawled until I saw your barn light." Cole ran a hand through his hair, exhaling slowly. "You're saying the marshals are looking for you right now?" She nodded weakly. "They think I'm with him. If they find me here broken bar." He didn't let her finish. He knew what that meant. The law didn't care much for the details out here. Guilt by association was enough to end a life. Cole stood and began to pace the room, his boots creaking against the floorboards. He was a man who lived by a simple code: they stay out of other folks' messes. But something about her, about the way she clung to her truth, made him hesitate. "You got a name?" he asked finally. "Clara," she said softly. "Clara Wynne." "Well, Miss Wynne," Cole said, looking out the window at the dark plains beyond, "you sure picked a hell of a place to hide." Her lips curved in a faint, bitter smile. "Wasn't much of a choice," he sighed, glancing back at her. "You're safe here for now. I'll make sure of it." Clara's eyes widened. "You don't have to do that. If they come, they'll think you're hiding me. You could lose everything." Cole gave a dry chuckle. "Ain't got much to lose. This land, a few cattle, and a reputation that don't matter past the next town. But I'll tell you what, I do got a conscience, and I ain't about to let them hang a woman for something she didn't do." She stared at him, tears glistening in her eyes though she tried to hide them. "Why?" Cole met her gaze steadily. "Because once, a stranger did the same for me." Clara's lips parted, but she didn't speak. There was something in his tone, a history, a pain buried deep that she could sense but dared not ask about. The wind howled louder outside, rattling the shutters. Cole threw another log onto the fire, then turned back to her. "You should rest. Tomorrow, we'll figure out what comes next." As she lay back, exhaustion pulling her under again, she whispered, "They'll come. You know, they'll search every mile till they find me." Cole stood by the fire, staring into the flames. "Then let them come." Hours passed. The fire burned low, and the room sank into a hushed, uneasy calm. Cole sat awake long after Clara had fallen asleep, his mind racing. He knew he'd crossed a line, a one he couldn't uncross. Harboring a fugitive, even an innocent one, meant trouble. He glanced toward the window, where the horizon was still shrouded in night. Somewhere out there, men with badges and rifles were scouring the plains. Maybe they'd already seen the smoke from his chimney. Maybe they were closer than he thought. Still, when he looked back at Clara, paled, trembling, her face softened by sleep, he felt something stir inside him that he hadn't felt in years. A need to protect, to stand for something beyond survival. He reached for his revolver on the table and checked the chamber. 6 bullets gleamed in the firelight. He holstered it quietly and moved to the window, watching the darkness beyond the fields. The ranch was silent except for the creak of the windmill and the soft breathing of the woman he'd chosen to protect. The world outside was merciless, but inside that cabin, for the first time in years, Cole Turner felt the weight of purpose pressing heavy on his chest. He whispered to himself, almost as a promise, "Ain't no lawman taking her from here, not while I'm breathin'." And outside, somewhere far down the trail, the faint echo of horses could already be heard, day closing in through the night.